Welcome, everyone. This is the Mother Hustler Podcasts, and I'm your host, Karin Mills. We are fortunate to have Karin Luise. I said it right. Thank you.
You said it right.
She is a transformational coach, awesome, amazing personality on Instagram. I mean, I follow you, I stalk you on Instagram, I watch your stories, and I was really attracted to the way that you carry yourself and the way that you show up. And it's been a long-term back and forth just trying to figure out our schedule, but she's finally here to join us and grace us with your time. So welcome, Karin.
Thank you so much. And mutual admiration too. I mean, we're all doing the best we can. And I love that you say that because you know what, the difference in me 10 years ago and me now is I show up purely as I am. And like we just said, the people that are our people are going to be attracted to us, all of us that are doing this hustling as our authentic selves. Like that's how you get the people that are going to be working with you and following you, because they're going to be attracted to who you are purely as like an individual. So thank you. That means so much to me.
Thank you. You're welcome. So we're just going to kind of tell the world of how you got to where you are. And for most of us, like, for example, like me, it was an awakening for me to really walk away from my 7-year insurance practice, which everybody thought I was the craziest woman in the world. But there's always that deeper reason why we do what we do. So walk us through with your transformation. And I think in order for you to become a transformational coach, you had to go through your own transformation, right?
Yes. And you're right. Like, I think with all the people that I work with, primarily women, it's a huge life change, and it's either a death, a divorce, or a change in career. And out of it usually comes some kind of an awakening, which then promotes like the authentic self to come up, because what we're doing when we're not in this authentic life, whether it's in a marriage or a relationship or work, like often we're not living as our true self. So for me, it was, I've been divorced twice, and the first marriage that I had, I was married to a professional athlete that's really well known down in Atlanta. He was with the Braves, and I was in my 20s, and I lived a life like kind of in this like Barbie doll box where I did what was expected of me. I never thought I would go back to school. I didn't think I was that smart. Nobody else thought I was that smart. I just kind of put all my effort into like my outside appearance and showing up and supporting him. And so my identity was all about him. Well, it was very public. We had a very public divorce, and there were a lot of infidelity, and there were babies, and not my babies, his babies, and it blew my world apart. So I went through a very devastating, like, oh my God, like this illusion that we created. We were like this golden couple here in Atlanta, and I was on TV a lot, just completely crumbled. And he ended up leaving me for another woman, and I was devastated for a really long time. And I'd been through this in my family of origin. My dad had kind of done the same thing to my mom, and I was still recovering from that. So here I was, like my worst nightmare. And I wrote a book called The Fatherless Daughter Project, which anyone that has father loss issues, whether it be through death or divorce or abandonment, it's so much healing in this book. But I wrote it because I like walked this walk where, because of what had happened in my family, I kept picking men that were going to like play out this role with me, that I kind of would marry men that where I wasn't fulfilling this need to be loved. Right. So then I eventually got married again, but in between the two, I decided that counseling ended up kind of saving me, counseling and my connection to my Christian faith at the time, and family and friends. And so because counseling saved me, I was like, I think I want to do this for a living and help people. Like I needed to find meaning. And I was really attracted to like Viktor Frankl's work on finding purpose and meaning. And so I wanted to like dig in and switch this pain into purpose. So I went back to school and got my master's. And in the meantime, I met a man that was eventually would be my second husband, who was like, to me, the opposite of my first husband, but still like not a great match. But we did get married anyway. My clock was ticking. A lot of moms can relate to this. And I really wanted children. So I, pushed this to happen. And during the early part of our marriage, I decided to go back to school and get my doctorate, because what I found out was that I was actually really good at school, and I was pretty recovered from my first devastation of divorce. And I just wanted to keep going. And I decided that there was so much meaning in becoming just a higher level professional, because for me, it was like turning around the world and saying, this is the real me. Like, this is who I was born to be. And I found actually much gratitude that I'd been released from a life prior that probably would never have allowed me to become this shining star I really wanted to become. But then here I was married to someone again that like didn't like that my star was too bright. And like we ended up getting into a lot of friction. And I think a lot of women deal with this, where like you've got to find someone that's going to support that. And if not, like it just kept becoming an ongoing issue. And in the middle of all this, I had 3 babies, and I finally ended up, I mean, I'm fast forwarding, like I could tell the story over like a 20-hour period, but the marriage was like falling apart, and like his father passed away, and he got really depressed, and we just lost each other. And I had twins and then another one back to back. So I had 3 babies, and my third one was medically really, really fragile. And actually at one point died for 5 minutes and came back. And yeah, it was like the perfect storm of like so much tragedy. And we had so much death around us, and my own child. And then I had these twin babies I was still trying to take care of. And my husband was totally absent. He was totally depressed. And my third child, he was in the hospital 29 times in the ICU. Like it was a 3-year in and out, sometimes for 3 months at a time. And it was devastating. The good news is now he's robust and amazing, and he's doing great. You would never know. But at the time, it completely restructured the way I saw the world and the way that I saw what contentment looked like. Like to me, I'm like, now I can do this because I did that. And compared to that, like no one's in the hospital now. So I know what a good day feels like. It feels like health, and it feels like we all woke up in our beds. And so it's made me a different person. But, you know, then I went through this awakening, and someone close to me in our family committed suicide. And it was right when I really needed to leave the marriage. I've been seeing a therapist for like 2 years, trying to figure out how to do it. But here I was, this professional, this doctor. I actually had relationship expert as my title for a while. And I'm like, I can't get divorced again. Like, no one's going to trust me. And I had to really work through the shame, right? So now I'm really big on working with shame, because it kept me in a situation that was super toxic. Wow. So eventually after this person, and I know it's a family member, so I don't like to give all the information out of respect, but I ended up having like very supernatural experiences and very spiritual experiences. And she ended up not really leaving. She actually hung around me, and I started getting this communication, and I'd never experienced anything like that before. And here I was, like, my mom was a pastor. I was like raised very conservative Christian, and I had this doctorate, and I was like, you know, a clinical PhD. And then this like spiritual, supernatural stuff started happening, and I couldn't figure out where to put it. But all I know is it blew me wide open. And I started then going to people that were really in touch with that side of humanity and that side of spirituality. And I started getting the information. I've got chills right now talking about it. That's how I know that they're around. I started filling in the blanks for things that I really was missing, which was, who are you as a spiritual being? Where is your acceptance of yourself? There's so many beings, and you know, there are so many angels, and there's a love God source, and there are loved ones that have gone on that are around us all the time that like have such full acceptance for us. And we end up being so judgmental that we separate from who we truly are. So when I got those pieces filled in, I found the confidence in myself, and I found the answers to where I just completely transformed who I was. I mean, it was like a major transformation. I mean, I will say my family wanted to do an intervention on me, because all of a sudden I was like in this like woo-woo world. I mean, if you could see my office, like crystals and hawk feathers, and but you know, it was amazing. So then I dove into spiritual teachings, and I dove into just studying this other part of the human experience, and I couldn't get enough of it. So I have that education now, which was so amazing. So now that's part of the work I do. I do a lot of intuitive work. But now fast forward, like a year ago, I decided that I really wanted to fit into this like entrepreneurial space, which was a very big shift. Again, like super woo-woo spiritual. And then I'm like, I want to write another book and I want to sell products. And I've never seen myself as an entrepreneur before because, of course, I never just thought I would land in that space. And I've just taught myself through the past, like basically the past year, how to, I've joined a mastermind group. I've really focused myself on owning my greatness in that way. Like I own my like mental greatness, my spiritual greatness, my emotional greatness. And now I'm owning my professional greatness. And it's like everything is weaving together in such a beautiful way. But you know, just like you and everyone, I'm still on a journey. But that's the summary of the past 15 years. Yeah.
So I grew up Catholic, and I go to a Christian church, but I don't go on a regular basis. I believe in God, and I believe in the source, and I believe in everything that you're doing. Like you, I've started my spiritual journey in 2013, and I feel like there are a lot parallel from the religion-based belief to the more of I call the spiritual belief the more of like you actually feel it. Like I can feel people's energy. When somebody walks in a building and I'm in the building and they're very negative people and I know they're very negative people, I can feel their energy just wavelength, you know, just really strong negative energy. And I can literally sometimes say, is that so-and-so, without even looking around.
That is amazing. Yeah, I've got chills again. Like you're picking up on energy. I mean, it's your spirit, but it's your aura. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that the religion, which comes from, you know, one truth, and I truly believe that religion comes from one truth, they just get kind of, I wouldn't call it twisted by humans, but I call it like every human being have their own touch and opinions. Do you think there's a gap in our religious society that is not filled, because now we're starting to really tap into this totally different human experience that wasn't never taught by my elders, you know? Do you believe there's a gap there?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've changed so much, and the good news is I'm not trying to convert anybody anymore. For a while, you know, I was like, this is the answer. Now, the piece to me that is really missing is the piece of compassion and the piece of non-judgment and non-shame. So I was raised Church of God. We were Lutheran, Church of God, and then my mom became a Presbyterian minister. She got ordained. And the piece that I regret being taught, now I love that I was taught to have like this close relationship, and it definitely brought me to where I am now. But the piece that was harmful to me was the piece that put a lot of shame on like sinning and are you going to get into heaven or not? And there was a very black and so it was the black and white, and every church isn't like this.
Yes.
The black and white, because to me now I'm like, life is a million shades of gray. And to be honest, I don't believe anymore that we're being judged. I mean, now I've done so much work in the spiritual field and I just have a very different relationship. But my belief is that there's no one's judging us but ourselves. There's a lot of mistranslation, and this, like especially the Christian Bible. My mom actually has done a lot of work around looking at the original Hebrew and Greek, even in her Presbyterian teaching. And I mean, there's just like a little tense or a gender shift, and there's like the words become totally different. And what they're finding, people that are really looking at the old text, was that Jesus and God, the teaching was more about inclusiveness. It was about oneness. And that to me is the missing piece. I think that like this teaching that we were supposed to be worshiping and we're going to be condemned, it produces this separateness, where really if the words were taken the way they were meant, I mean, it was that there was a oneness and that we're all like sons and daughters of source or God, whatever word you want to use. But that is what I'm so teaching people, because it's been ingrained. It was ingrained. It's why I stayed in 2 marriages that I shouldn't have been in, because I thought I was going to be prosecuted. I mean, I thought I would be judged by God, right?
Yeah.
But what I know now is God's not keeping track of marriages and divorces. Like he's not. He is loving and accepting you as who you are, and all he wants is for us to be close to him and engage with him. And so I can go on and on about this topic, but my transition has really, really changed me. I just think that we don't have as much compassion for ourselves, and it creates disease in our bodies. I mean, that's been shown.
Yeah, amen, sister. I totally agree. Do you have any advice for women or moms that are going through a tough marriage right now? because you went through the first one, which was super public, which
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us women take so much full responsibility for that, even though, we have to learn how to give ourselves grace, but sometimes it's really difficult because we take on so much on our shoulder and pretty much the weight of the world, especially when you're a mom and you have, even if you're not a mom yet, but you have the motherly instinct.
Caretaker. Yeah.
So what is your advice to those women that are going through some challenge that they don't feel like this is just the right marriage for me, but yet there's that pull and challenge of why they should stay together?
Yeah. This is, most of my clients are in this situation.
Mm.
So my thing is, I believe in marriage. When it works, it can be a beautiful thing, and it's not perfect. I think marriage, I have so many friends that have beautiful marriages, and I love the way it works when it's a partnership. To me, if it is getting in the way of your own health, like I lost all my hair, like I would lose all this weight, like I got like disease sick in my body, like your body will tell you. And if you're in a situation where your well-being is compromised, so I'm very big on energy. Now you can use the words, the spiritual presence, whatever words you want to use, but they can show you scientifically how you have an aura, like we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And when you're in your authentic space and you're happy, you will expand. They measure it with science. They have certain things that can measure your energetic presence. And when you're in a situation where you feel small, or the two lowest vibrational points are guilt and shame. So if you're feeling that way, your aura, your spiritual presence actually will contract. And that's your spiritual guidance system telling you this works, this does not work. This is in alignment with who you are. This is not in alignment with who you were meant to be. So when looking at a relationship or marriage, when you're constantly feeling contracted, you're feeling cortisol being released in your body, which is the stress hormone. You're feeling an upset stomach. You're not feeling like you can share your truth. You're actually getting sick a lot. I had bronchitis. I'm getting over a little cold right now, but I literally lost my voice like twice in this past marriage. In both marriages, I had bronchitis like for years. So I'm a big believer in chakras as well. So your body, when it's not able to express itself, will get an illness in that space. It's often the heart, very often gut issues, very often female issues. And the throat's a big one. So I was like silenced. I wasn't allowed basically, or I agreed to not speak my truth. And so I was sick for years. So if this kind of thing is going on, even if it's not that extreme, but if you literally are miserable, now I do believe in therapy. I do believe in trying. But if there is a chronic disallowance where you're not allowed to be who you truly are, it is okay if the relationship has met its end. It is okay if it's alignment. And I know it's hard, like it's not easy. I've been through it twice. First time, no children, second time, children. It's okay if you were in alignment at one point. But see, like for me, there was maybe a commonality, like anyway, that there like a personality thing. Like when I first married my second husband, I was very much in the victim role because I felt very victimized in my first marriage. He very much also has that same kind of vibratory presence, that same emotional presence, victim. So we actually were in a line, like the world's out to get me. So we were cohesive with that. Like it would, and then you know what kept happening? Things kept happening to us and people were victimizing us, whether it was through money or whatever. Once I found my truth and I transformed, the book that changed my life was one on victim consciousness. And that is what created the shift in me when I realized how much power we have over creating our future, creating our present. And when we're sitting in a place where we constantly feel like a victim, you're actually inviting more of that experience into your life. You're actually losing the faith that I can use mainstream words or Christian words. It's alignment. Mm-hmm. So you're out of alignment with what you were meant to have, which is abundance, happiness, and joy. So the other piece is that you're meant to be happy. Not all the time. Like, yes, relationships are hard, but you're not meant to be in a situation where you're martyring your own happiness for someone else. I have so many women come to me that are like, it's been years and they literally have not felt happiness unless they're with their girlfriends on a beach trip. In years, but they're there because of guilt and shame. Again, the lowest vibratory emotions that you can sit in. Wow. And they're so contracted and they don't know who they are. They don't know how to get out of it. they've heard these messages for so long. So that's the work that I do now. I'm writing another book on it right now on how to find your, I have a course coming out this fall on finding your freedom, finding your authentic self, digging in and realizing what's blocking you from being who you are, and really accepting that you're supposed to be happy and free. So you asked me a question that literally is my entire upcoming course. I'm so passionate about it because you know what, Karin, when people finally make this shift, and not out of trying to hurt anybody else, but when it can be done, you know, in a natural way with flow, and we can find healing, there's so much happiness and freedom waiting for people on the other side when they choose to let go of these old beliefs and this decision that we have to be miserable because we won't be welcomed into heaven or whatever it is that we believe. Like, you're meant to be happy while you're here. Yes. You really are. And yeah, you're not meant to be miserable. So that's like the main thing I love working with. And it's amazing how many few people believe they're supposed to be happy.
Yeah, that's so cool because I have a couple of friends that have stayed in their marriage for years, and finally, this is probably a different scenario than how you've described, because it was a different question, but this is like a twist of that question, to where they stay in their marriage because they have kids, right? And you talk about this energy that's becoming really small and kind of squeezing you into becoming, it's stressing you out, right? And it's causing all these diseases, stress we all know is a killer. Yeah. But they do it for their children. And we love our children as mother hustlers, our motherly duty first before our careers. And sometimes ourselves are last on the list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what can you say about that if there's marriages that we stick to because of our kids, not because of us? Like, that's a very difficult decision for a mother to really make a decision on.
It is. And you know what? It is so common. And here's the beautiful thing. When you're in that position, like, compassion for you, because that is rooted in love. Like, it's rooted in love. It's rooted in selflessness. But I will tell you, if you're in a miserable situation in a marriage, you're bringing in, like you talked about, being able to feel someone's energy. Children can feel it more than anyone. And so maybe it comes out in yelling at them about their homework, or you're short fused all the time. So what is happening when you're in a miserable place like that is you're not giving them your best self, because you're showing up contracted. And so you're going to be stressed out, short fused. You're not going to be sleeping well. And it's going to end up bleeding out into that relationship you're having with them. It is not easy. Like, I did it when my kids were young. Like, they don't really remember much about him even us being in the same house.
Wow.
It continued to be tough. They're like, yes, it would be great if we were all in the same house, because like there's logistics. Like, now they have to go spend the night with him. And I'm not trying to simplify this by saying, go get happy, just make the decision and go. Believe me, logistically, it is a complicated thing to figure out. But what I've learned is that when it comes up, like they always say, I wish you lived in the same house. Like, they would desire, every child wants the family to be together. It's just an inborn desire. But I tell them all the time, I know you guys don't remember, but you're getting the best mom that you can get right now. Like, your daddy and I are just super different. And you're getting the best version of me. I'm so much happier now. Your daddy loves you. I love you. And I'm in a place now where, like, the wounds, and there's a lot more that happened that we don't even need to get into, but I had to heal those wounds. And now I'm really open to talking about it. But you know what? Here's what's really great. It can become, like, I'm very big on using language. It can become very fluid, and we can start using words like, I'm very excited about this new life that I have. This is going to be a fluid transition. Like, there can be so much healing here. And oftentimes what happens, if the kids are older and they're witnessing either the parents doing two things, they're either ignoring each other, which is what I went through, both, or they're fighting a lot. So the kids are picking up on this and they're watching it. There are so many children, me included, when my parents got divorced, that are like relieved, actually, because they don't want to be in that environment either.
Yes.
So the kids are older and they're seeing this, gosh, I forget the word, but there's a word that means like you're kind of disgusted by your spouse all the time and you're carrying this energy, and then they're fighting, and then he's saying things to them and you're saying things to them, and it's not comfortable for them. So you might be surprised at how relieved. I'm not promoting divorce, but if you're in a toxic situation, the kids are feeling it. And
Yeah. So
yeah,
my friend just ended her marriage, and when she did, she waited. I mean, she's been unhappy for the last 12, I don't know, 10 years, decade. And when she did, because she waited until her kids were in their 20s, 22. But here's what the kids said, and I resonate with that because she told me this story. The kids said, I don't know what took you so long. And,
mhm.
they're really smart little beings. And like you said, they receive those energy more than anybody. And I think because they're still innocent, especially when they're little, it seems to be so common, like more common than I thought. I have another friend that is co-parenting, and one is living upstairs and another, my friend's living down in the basement. And
Right.
um, I said to her, I worry about your kids because they're going to believe and think that that's how love is,
Yeah.
you know, because they only believe what you show them. You can tell your kids a lot of things what to do. It's really hard for them to do what you tell them to do, but what you show them is what really sticks with them and carries on with them for a very long time. I mean, for a lifetime. Because like me, I had a lot of teachings that my mom gave me or my grandmother gave me, but it really didn't make sense to me until I went through life of my own and
Yeah.
starting to go through challenges in life, victories and wins in life. And my grandma used to always tell me, um, if you do something kind for people, it's going to come back 10 times at least.
Yeah.
And I had never understood that until I'm like, wow, that happened to me. That's what she was talking about. So I think we get it and we absorb it, but it doesn't make sense until later on in life. It's magical. I love life.
I agree. Me too. And see, you're talking about you brought up such a good point about the authenticity of the teaching. So we can be saying one thing and doing another, and the kids are not going to they're going to pick up on the authenticity of the message. So if they're witnessing a different experience with their parents, so um, we're teaching them how to love. We're teaching them how to love each other, right? And not that every marriage is perfect. Every now and then you're going to disagree, and you're actually teaching them how to get through disagreements, which is a beautiful life lesson. We're not supposed to teach them that life is easy. We're supposed to teach them how to be strong and how to be resilient.
Sure.
But if you're in a marriage, a situation where you're in the same home, then this is what I grew up with. And it's why I agreed to two really dysfunctional marriages, is because I learned that marriage was about fighting. It was about it was about so much dysfunction. And so I kept agreeing to that. So I was not about to teach my children that. And I'm like, even if maybe I'll find somebody again, maybe I'll be alone, whatever it is, I want them to know that love is mutual. Love is, it's respectful. Love, celebrates the light in the other. I don't want to teach them that love is as toxic as it was happening here. Luckily, they don't remember it. But that is such a good point, because you're right. We want these loving messages to be received authentically, because if they're picking up on a discrepancy, like, Mom, you're saying one thing, but like you haven't talked to Dad like in 3 days, or Daddy's
Right.
never coming out of his office, or you guys sleep in separate bedrooms, which happens a
Yes.
lot. You're teaching them how to be when they get in a relationship later. Like, they're learning this is how love represents itself. So I think that is a big piece that when I really got that's a big piece of why I found the peace to end this relationship. Just, yeah, we weren't in alignment anymore, and it wasn't loving. It's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm really open with my kids. Like, we talk about it all the time, and they know that they can ask me any question. And it's like, I'm so at peace with it now that I'm like, it doesn't bother me at all. So,
So, so do you think that when you finally meet the man of your dreams, the man that was created for you,
yeah.
and I believe in preparation, and that our life and the things that we go through in our journey, no matter how traumatic, no matter how challenging, no matter how difficult it is, I truly believe that it must be preparing you for that person to finally deserve that person,
Yeah.
right? Because at the point in your life prior, before you transformed yourself, you may have not deserved that person. So are you ready for that person to come to your life? And if it does, or he does, um, Do you think that's it for you and you'll totally have a different view of marriage and how you handle situations in your marriage?
Mhm. I think I am so much readier. Now that I understand the patterns I was in, and a lot of this is about repeating patterns, which is so much of the work I do. So I've gotten so much healing on so many levels. The great thing is, while I do miss companionship, I don't have to be married now, which is like the perfect place to be. Like I feel so complete. I date, and I really miss having, like I miss someone being here for the kids. That's a big one. But what I have now that I didn't have before was like I don't have a desperation to like have a man, because that was a lot of my identity. So yes, like I am praying for like my twin flame, my soulmate. Like I know I haven't met him yet, but I'm like, okay, like that's the great thing. Like once you get okay, I've spent so much time alone now. I mean, I've been alone now this 4 years now. And it's like, it's a really good place to be. I feel super empowered, but I also feel like really ready. But I will tell you, I know what I will accept and what I won't. I've never had someone come in and meet me here, like partner and celebrate each other. It's always been here. So, and you know, as you get older, the field gets a little bit smaller. Those of you that are dating in your 40s, like, you know what I mean? But I completely believe and trust. I pray about it every day. I'm like, God, just bring my soulmate when it's the time, but you know, he has to be ready too. So, you know, like I said before, you're going to meet people that are in alignment with where you are. And I wasn't ready before. Like you said, I wasn't, I needed to still heal these wounds that I had from childhood. I mean, it's very evident to me. And now I've done so much work that, like, I'm like, bring it. Yeah. Just, but I'm whatever. It's the universe. It's God's timing.
Yeah. And well, you know, like maybe he's not ready. Maybe he's still going through those adversities and he's being prepared. I mean, it's just, life is so magical. And the minute that you allow this energy, we talked about this really stressful energy. And it's amazing how when you release that, you walk away from a miserable marriage, this whole new world opens up for you.
Yeah.
And it's like you're making room for those new energy to come into your life, because you were stuck in this little box, and you couldn't make room for the energy that was to come if you stayed there.
You're totally right. You're totally right. And there has to be some healing that comes after the relationship ends. And this isn't only marital, it also has to do with friendships. And, you know, like, so I've had to, I mean, we've all done that, especially as you get into your 30s, 40s. I mean, women, this is another huge piece, you know, and until you clear the relationships that are toxic, you're right. Like that space is taken up and you're like clinging because you're afraid. There's a lot of fear, like in letting go.
Yeah.
What if nobody else shows up? But once you have faith and you trust the universe and the love, like I've met so many, I mean, my friendship group is smaller now, but I've met so many women that are in alignment with me. I have many more guy friends, but I won't let go of parts of me. So like before, the men that I was attracting, like they would get really attracted to like the fact that I wanted to do all this stuff. But then once they got with me, they were just like, you know, can you just like can you stop like trying to get all this? They saw it as trying to get attention because there was an insecurity they carried. And so like, and it translates over time into just a really toxic dynamic where I would have to like hide parts of myself or, you know, not show up as my full self because like there were certain things we weren't allowed to talk about or certain topics that were taboo or certain things that I would do. And I couldn't like shine too brightly. Right. So now, like you just said, this whole world opens up. Like, I don't have anyone like feeling insecure around me. I want to attract someone that is secure enough that they can be like, girl, you do your thing. Like, go be you. Like, that's the guy that's going to be my guy. But in the meantime, I get to be fully myself. And I am the happiest I have ever been. I get to wear my big thing is I love to wear big earrings. I love to wear bright colors. And I love to be me. Like my ex used to always say, you know, why do you have to wear such flashy clothes? And I mean, which is so silly. But now it's like, I just show up, whether I'm feeling boho or, you know, whatever, professional. I love I don't have to put it through someone else's approval because now I have the approval from within me, and the source of love that is within me that's direct from God loves me so deeply. And so this like explosive freedom that I've had to be fully me, it's what I teach now. It's the course that I'm doing. It's the book that I'm writing right now. Like I'm so passionate about it because it's like, there was so much joy of expression and joy of like, I love myself now, like fully love myself, and would not compromise again.
That's amazing. The other day I read a quote or some statement about that feminism is not about the competition between men and women. It's about, unleashing the woman, that's been sleeping, the giant that's been sleeping inside us, because this is our time, girlfriend. This is,
Yes.
with the whole thing, that women empowerment, all kinds of things about women. It's just, we're just now discovering how powerful we really are, and how much production and how much more productive we are when we stick together, and when we go girl together, and when we support each other, we can get so much more done.
Yep.
Totally. So
there's no coincidence that that's happening now. Energetically, God's timing is perfect. There's so many women that are changing, and there's no coincidence that our country and the whole planet is having this shift. I mean, they're measuring vibrational changes on the earth. There's so much cool science behind this. Yeah. The resonance of the earth is actually elevating. The earth is actually adjusting. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. So it is happening, and it's no surprise we're reaching these new levels of spirituality and understanding and self-awareness, because we're actually raising our awareness just literally as an entire, as humanity. And there's no coincidence that you're alive now, that I'm alive now, that we're a part of this, because every one of us is here for a reason, and we are contributing to that vibrational upgrade, that spiritual upgrade that's happening right now. And it's bringing us more together. And it was necessary that women broke away from these traditional old beliefs for a time. They don't work anymore. No. It's because we've shifted. I mean, they worked 50 and 100 years ago, but it's not. So it's happening.
Yeah. So we're shifting because we're more advanced than our male counterparts, right? And we're a lot smarter than our male counterparts. And I think I just kind of had
love it. I love it. You just said that. I love it.
I just kind of had a revelation when you said something about the shift, and I didn't know about those things, the energetic shift in the earth. But I just had a revelation of that our male counterpart, and you talk about, because I took some notes, that your husband didn't like how much you shine, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's just that we're so much more advanced in our shift that they are still not shifting. They're still stuck in that. Luckily, there's majority women on planet Earth. There's 5 times more women than men. But they're a lot slower than us. And I can see, no offense, it's just the truth. And they're, I think the shift in their mindset, in the male species, if you want to call it, is really behind the curve.
Yeah.
And that's why when we shine, it's whoa, culture shock to them.
Yeah. I mean, this is a can of worms, but I think that so much of it is to understand men, they operate in fear. So there are 2 things. We do this, and some men do it. So let's not leave out the men that are conscious and they're shifting and that are spiritual, because there is a subset of men that are getting it, that are waking up. I mean, there are, because I know some of them. So when you go into rooms that are in this kind of discussion, it's going to be 10-1 female to men, but there are some. So I love being around the men that are conscious, but the reason that men are doing that, the reason why they've told us to be quiet, it's all fear. It's always fear. And so there are 2 main emotions. Mary Ann Williamson teaches this from the Course in Miracles. There's fear and there's love. Everything comes from either fear or love, period. So women, we tend, because we're doing this engagement and we tend to be more heart-centered. Men, just anthropologically have gone to war, and their DNA literally has evolved differently. And they've been taught to work on fear. So they are shifting now. They're showing DNA is actually changing. The kids that are coming in now, there's no mistake that the kids are coming in more open. There's just a lot of change that's happened. And so literally, it is, it's measurable. There is a definite shift. And so it's happening. This next generation is going to change everything. The kids that are, especially the ones that have come in super connected, my kids, one of the one that was super fragile, when he was young, could see all of his guides and angels in the room. He could see loved ones that had passed on. He had full sight. And that was when I had my awakening. Because kids, they all do when they're little. They're told that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're told that it's imaginary and they end up turning it down. But when you watch a baby, you'll see a baby like focus on things that you don't see.
Yes, yes. I noticed that with my kids when they were in their crib and they would like laugh and almost like talking to somebody. I
Too.
noticed that. But in my culture, I grew up in the Philippines. We've
Yeah.
always believed in superstitions. We believe in the spirits,
Right.
and they called it the quack stuff, but it's starting to come back. And
Yeah.
this morning I had coffee with a young lady, and we talked because she asked me like, how do you raise your children and whatnot. And we talked about this whole shift and how the next generation men are going to be so different. And I truly, truly believe, and like, I get goosebumps when I say the word mother hustler, right?
Yeah.
Because I truly believe it's us that's changing our next generation men, because we're raising them. Here we are, a new generation of women, right? We were raised by a different generation. So the men that was raised by the generation ahead of us has a different mindset. But now that the women in this generation have such a awakening and we're shifting faster than anything,
Mm-hmm.
we're transferring that to our little men. And I have two boys, and I said to you, and there was we had a back to school night not too long ago, and my oldest had gone over to middle school, and my youngest had we took him to his room, and he's a fourth grader, and the teacher is the same teacher as my oldest, and she was like, "Oh, I love the Mills boys because they're so good. They always offer to help in the room because I teach them service, like service to others lead to greatness. And I always teach them kindness, right?" So I told my oldest about it, how teacher Gardner was super excited to see Taylor, the youngest.
Yeah.
And I said, "You're changing the world, right?" And he was like, "What do you mean, Mom?"
Beautiful.
I said, "If you made an impact on your teacher like that, even though that's just one person, you're going to change the world because of the ripple impact that you create, because that teacher has access to 24 different students. And if what you did, I don't know what you did with her, I don't know how you made an impact with her, but whatever it is, you just continue to do what you do. But I want to commend you because when she saw Taylor, she was super happy and excited because of how you made an impact with her. And now she's going to teach 24 kids, whatever it was you showed her, and then the next 24 kids and the next 24 kids. And she's going to touch so many lives for that's one little iota thing you did. And that's what changes the world." And he started crying.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to cry.
He started.
The whole time you're talking, I have chills all over my body. Yeah.
He started he has this really long eyelash that I wish I have. And he started rubbing his eyes, and I'm like, "What's going on, Kaden?" And he said, "I didn't know I could change the world, Mom." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you totally did. You already did." And so I said, "Just keep doing what you're doing." And so I actually went back there and asked the teacher, "You were so happy to see Taylor, and I would like to know why. What did my other son do to help?" Karin, they always stay a little longer. And they say, "Is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything I can do to make your job easy?"
Yeah. You're doing such a great job. That's amazing. You've inspired so many women by just sharing that story to pass that on to their children, which the ripple effect for that, to acknowledge that, when the soul finds its truth, it weeps, and it's overwhelming because it's so pure in alignment with the love that was put in him and in you. And that's so much part of his purpose. That is, see, now I want to go have that discussion with my children. That is amazing. And it is so true. Because that's that ripple effect, and sometimes you actually will I never know. But
No, that's the fun part for me, is not knowing what impact, how your impact has gone bigger, because you never know. You can't track it. You just do it.
And it's and it's the small things that came through. I was meditating, getting some spiritual messages, and that's what came through the other day. So it was exactly what you said. It was don't forget that the small things that you're doing, even if you never know, that one smile you give someone, the one time you stay after, the ripple effect. I mean, that came through so clear like 2 days ago. It ends up being the big thing. All these little small things, and we don't know because we don't see, but each time you're giving service, or I mean, you're exchanging love. And you're right. And then he's expanding the energy in the room and expanding her spirit. So she's showing up as a better person. And then that in effect affects all those kids. And then when they go home, I mean, that's so powerful. I love it.
Awesome. It's awesome. And I always, I always say, if you face people that are just nasty with you, that are having a bad day, it's not that they woke up today and decided I'm going to be nasty with Karin today. It's just maybe something before they saw you or before their encounter with you, they must have something happen to them, and it was their reaction that you happen to be in front of. Like, I explain all this to my kids. So what I want you to do is to just let them know it's going to be okay and smile, because maybe that was a horrible thing for them. And maybe they were about to kill themselves in the afternoon after they saw you. But the fact that you validated them it's going to be okay, and the fact that you smiled at them, they might change their mind, and it was because of you. And again, you'll never know the outcome of those things, but you cannot allow their energy, their negative energy, to change you, because you are a happy kid, you're a positive kid, and you need to show up like that, exactly like yourself. So it's just so powerful to also be able to change the world as a mom, right? Because we transfer those information to them.
So amazing. I mean, you're changing their lives, and that teaching them about relationships like that. I do the same thing. Like, it's with the kids. I always say just what you just said. I'm like, well, sweetie, and a lot of times it's the teacher. They'll, whatever. And I always say, you know what, she's having a bad day. And so, that book, The Four Agreements, one of the agreements is don't take things personally. And so that is a huge thing. And so you're teaching them, like, I tell people, don't be emotional Velcro, be emotional Teflon. Like, it's not about you, the way people are reacting to you. You're exactly right. It's about something that happened before they showed up, and they're just reflecting an experience off of you. So just let's let it, like, teach yourself. Like, I repeat to myself all day long, that's not about me. Don't take that in. It's not about me. But then you took it one step further, which I love, which is, but you can shift their energy just by saying, I mean, that's so beautiful. It's going to be okay. And you're right. The fact that what you do, because the person that's acting like that is going to be super spiritually contracted. And when you offer that shift, which is compassion, you shift the energy within them, and it expands them. And you're right. Like, it will create a different result for whatever they're going to do next. And the ripple just continues. And I love this. That's so beautiful and amazing. You've just empowered so many people to have these discussions with their kids.
You have given me a lot of revelation today. And see, the conversations like these that are just super powerful and very open, and like showing up as yourself, really induces a lot of information that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Right. And that's why podcasts are so powerful now, because you can listen to it, you can multitask and listen to it. You can listen to it before bed. It's very accessible. Good information is very accessible. So
I agree. When people find it, like, my big thing too is, I'm like, whatever, if the people that are listening and watching this right now, like, they found it for a reason. I mean, the universe and God's always delivering to you. Exactly. So yeah, I subscribe to like 50 things, and every day I just pray whatever pops up first is what I need to watch in the morning. And I just follow the guidance. And I'm like, I guess and you're right. Like, so people will resonate with, you just never know, like, the one, like you said, the nugget that's going to shift things. And I learned things too, like, talking to you, like, I just had so much inspiration come through too. So
thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. A lot of thought leaders are coming out, a lot of people like yourself that are influencer on the rise, that are just really coming out and showing up as yourself. So I congratulate you for doing this and being yourself and showing up in the world the way that you are, and transforming, actually replicating it with other women, and allowing them to have a safe space to speak with you, to let them know that it's okay to walk away from something miserable that's no longer serving you. So I commend you for all that.
Thank you so much. Well, I want people to find their true selves and find the happiness they were meant to have. And it is then that we can be our best selves for our children and our work and our next relationship or whatever it is. Like, it is such an improvement when you find your truth and you're in your authentic truth and you're allowed to be fully who you are, whether it's with the person you're with or not. Like, to me, that's where our power comes from. When we're doing, like you talking about leaving a career, and I'm sure you've shared that many times with your listeners, like when you, whether you're leaving a relationship, a career, a home, a city, whatever it is that transition is,
Yes.
when you land in that space that is authentic to who you really are and your dreams and your desires, you root and you reach and you become such a bigger being that is then able to expand in ways that you would never have been able to expand if you'd stayed in the space that kept you small and miserable. So I love
That's
it.
so true.
Yeah.
3 questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Last 3 questions. Number 1, what was it that your mom taught you that you carried on with you, good or bad, that you think that was so impactful for you? And then what is that good teaching that your mother handed to you that you are now teaching your kids?
Yeah. I think it took, my mom had been divorced twice too. She's on her 3rd marriage, and our stories are like super similar. She was actually a German immigrant. She went through a lot. And I will say, when my first divorce happened, she just was getting through her 2nd. And I was raised with a lot of guilt because of the religion. But once my mom had the shift that I'm in, kind of came into, she kept saying to me, as I was trying to figure out what to do next, she kept saying to me, what do you want to do? And my reply was always about, well, like what other people needed from me. And she kept repeating back to me, but what do you want to do, Karin? Like, forget about this person, that person. What do you want to do? And it was like, it was a training, but it was like an untraining of what culture had taught, which is to always do. And yes, you should do for others because service expands us, like you're talking about. But at the end of the day, when we're trying to create our identity, I teach this now, it's in my courses. I do this whole exercise where I have them drop in and ask themselves 3 times. And it's like you have to swipe out everybody else's opinions and desires for you and get down to what you were born with as your calling. So that completely changed. And now I teach it. So thanks, Mom.
That's awesome. You just said swipe out. You should have a Dr. Karin app, like that dating app, swipe left.
Yeah, you're right.
Swipe right if you don't like the opinion of others, because it's not about them. Keep swiping right.
It's true.
What technologically advanced era now we live in, and my kids Google me a lot. I don't know if your kids Google you a lot, but if your kids were listening today and you have a message for them, what would that message be?
So I love this because it's what I feel like it wasn't allowed for me so much, which actually ties back to what I just said, which is don't live your life to, it makes you weep just like with you. Don't live your life to please me, even though I make demands on you. Like, don't live it to please me or whoever you're with or your teacher. Live your life to please what is inside your own soul. Like, no matter what I've taught you, when you find alignment and your belief system sets up and it feels like home to you, that's the authentic you. So it's the same thing. It's that return to who they were meant to be, no matter what anybody else thinks. Even though like their dad is super conservative Christian, which is fine, and I'm super woo-woo and spiritual, like even though I teach them things, like at the end of the day, I always say to them, I want you to find your own path. So I'm going to expose you and show you these things. But if it doesn't feel right to you, that's okay. Like you don't have to, believe what I believe or go in my path. I want you to go because we're very different. Like you go with what feels the best to you. And that's when you're in alignment with your spiritual self.
Wow.
It's what I teach.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So before I go to the last question, tell us where we can find you and which social media outlet you hang out the most.
Mm-hmm. So I'm probably the most on Instagram right now. And so everything I'm under is Dr. Karin, and I'm sure you have it up, but it's Karin as my name. But I have the biggest following on Facebook. So I'm doing a lot more live tapings on Facebook. I have the Dr. Karin Show there. So there's a lot of teachings there. And I'm also sliding it over to YouTube. And of course, my website is drkarin.com, and there are going to be a lot of upcoming courses on there. But thank you for asking. Yeah, we always want people, if I resonate with you, like come follow me and like, let's talk. Let's get real. Awesome. Yeah, I love it.
So one last question before I let you go. What is your definition of a mother hustler?
So here's what I learned. I just was listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about the male and female brain. And he was talking about how they were monitoring the brains and how when each one was posed with solving your problems, the men's brain went very linear and very one-dimensional. And it literally, but that's okay. That's what they've needed to do. Like that's how they've gotten things done. But they were, when they look at the female brain, literally it goes through like 20 different options. I mean, you know, right? So that's the first thing that popped up for me. It's very circular and analytical, and it zigzags and it fires up every side. Men literally, they go like logic. So that's the first image that pops up for me, and it is that we are able to juggle and manage things so beautifully. We have an innate anthropological DNA-based ability to multitask, and so two things. So we're able to do it, but secondly, I think a big piece of this is also if we can allow ourselves not to be completely perfect and to also give ourselves compassion. Like I'm learning this right now in such a big way. I'm around a lot of women that don't have children, and which is awesome, but I can't get everything done because I am a mom, right? So many of my friends, like they can work, 12 hours a day, or and I'm like, I can't be there. I can't make this meeting, or I have to leave one day early. So the balance of that is also finding peace when the hustle has to be, I call it pushing the pause button. Like a kid gets sick, motherhood to me is pushing the pause button like all the time. So I think it's also then making peace with when the hustle has to be quiet and you have to tend to the mother part. But then when you get back in the hustle, you're able to do your multitasking and be, your own superhero. But such a big piece I think that we don't talk about enough is giving yourself compassion and being okay that you're also doing this beautiful hustling over here as a mom. And sometimes that means that it's not going to show up in your work productivity, but just like you just talked about with your sons and me with my kids, like it's going to show up in the way that they grow up, and knowing that you're also creating something beautiful over here as well, So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's our masterpiece, because that takes years of work. I always said that when we talk about brainwashing, we think of a very negative word, but you can brainwash because kids are easy to manipulate, right? You can brainwash them with all the good stuff, and they can become this amazing human being later on because you've given them and you've fed them all these wonderful information. So I love that you talked about that hustle here and the hustle here, because one of my guests in the past talk about that if you're a mother, you're already a hustler. Like there's no need for you to prove that you're a hustler because you already hustle.
Right. Totally. It's already happening.
My goodness, this was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for gracing us with your time. Really appreciate you making the time to spread your love in this podcast, and you are doing amazing things. And I just want to say I'm thankful for our connection, and thanks for gracing us with your time here. I appreciate you a lot.
Well, I think we've shown people too that you showed up as your authentic self, you were vulnerable. And I think that is when we create so much change, right? We both showed up as our authentic selves. So, back at you, but I hope that women who are listening, know how powerful, like you said, these conversations are, and encourage you to continue this with your friends and people that inspire you. So I was so blessed to be here. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Follow Dr. Karin, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Karin.
Bye.
Yeah.